I'm Dave Hardy, and welcome again to Say What. Charleston, West Virginia, my hometown, is undergoing a renaissance right now, and it's a wonderful thing to see. And one of the most important aspects of the renaissance is economic renewal. And the subject of our show today is an exciting project called The Lift. And The Lift is innovative beyond belief. It's in the east end of Charleston, and I won't explain it. I have two excellent guests here today that are going to do that for us. First, I have Drew Dunlap from Charleston Area Alliance. Drew, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
And my old friend from way back in daycare times, when we had our children at the same daycare, the indomitable Terrell Ellis, from the president and CEO of Advantage Valley. Welcome, both of you. Thank you.
It's great to be here.
Drew, what is The Lift?
Okay, so the Lift Center is a redevelopment project on the east end of Charleston. If you're driving by on the interstate headed past what I still call Laidley Field, University of Charleston's field, if you look just over on the east end there, you'll see a huge manufacturing facility. That is the home for many years, I guess about almost 125 years. It was the home of Canal Manufacturing. And I think you have to start when you're talking about this project and talk a little bit about Canal Manufacturing. They were a stalwart of the community. They did everything from building rail cars to even farm tractors for a time. They did industrial boilers, you name it, they did it. They were, like I said, they were an integral part of the community there on the East End and part of the economy of West Virginia. And it was a family-owned business. I think something like 4 generations of the family ran this business. And in recent years, they decided to wind down the business. And there was an opportunity that came up with a federal grant competition, actually, the Build Back Better Regional Challenge. And I should step back a little bit. I will say that there was a lot of groundwork laid for this project by folks like Terrell Ellis and others that were kind of laying the groundwork in terms of, like Terrell did a study, funded a study for that kind of explored the need for a food hub or a commercial kitchen in the region. So when we had the opportunity to compete for this grant, we had data that we could use that helped us get this grant. But essentially in 2021, we began putting together a package to compete for this grant with what's called the Act Now Coalition, which is a group of a lot of nonprofits and businesses in the region. I think it's how many counties are in the region? 21 county region, mostly in southern West Virginia. And so 2021, they started putting this package together to compete for this significant amount of money coming from the federal government. Worked all the way through, and I think we had several iterations of the application. And in 2022, I want to say September of 2022, learned that they had successfully gotten the largest, I believe, or second largest award in the U.S., something like $63 million for our region. Now, Canal Manufacturing was still in the building, right? And they're still working and actually had a tenant.
I have to ask, Drew, what is the building?
So the building is about, at the time that Canal Manufacturing was in this in 2022, consisted of a central hallway manufacturing facility of about 110,000 square feet and
That's
a lot
big.
of ancillary buildings, right? So there was a big Quonset hut, there were a number of support structures, there was a large office building, there were 3 houses on Dixie Street that were part of this property. So they were actually still working when we got this grant. So the Charleston Area Alliance, my organization, ended up came to an agreement with Willie Lively, the president of Canal Manufacturing, and purchased the property with the agreement that Willie could continue to work there for a year while he wound down his business. And that's what he did. And during that time, we began the planning process. We identified, I guess what the overall goal was going to be is we're demolishing almost all of it except for 55,000 square feet, and that's going to be a multi-tenant facility. So we've got 3 tenants that we've already identified that are committed to the project, and we're going to have a 4th space of about 19,000 square feet that will be useful for prospecting. So we can find a business that complements the goals of the Lift Center, and we can put that in there. So
you're taking a facility that probably looks very industrial, early 20th century and maybe
Right.
pre-World War II facility, 100,000 plus square feet.
Right.
In an urban area,
Right.
right beside Laidley Field, or University of Charleston
Right.
Stadium,
Yeah.
at Laidley Field.
Right.
And you are converting that into a 21st century lift. Now, you told me, and I want you to say,
Sure.
what does LIFT stand for?
So LIFT is an acronym. It stands for Learning, Innovation, Food, and Technology. And that is reflected in the type of tenants we have, and we'll talk about those in just a moment. But you're exactly right. It is right in a neighborhood. You can literally see the Capitol building from there. Right across the street from the entrance to the factory are houses where people live there. And I'll say through this multi-year project, I've had opportunity, of course, to be down there at the site quite a bit. And I've got to meet a lot of the neighbors and the folks who live there on Dixie Street and the surrounding streets. And it's just been a pleasure. You know, I met somebody whose grandfather was was a Russian immigrant and built some of the first houses on Dixie Street. So they've lived there for generations. And canal manufacturing was a big part of their lives. A lot of family members worked there. It provided for their families. And it was an everyday thing. You walk out your front door, there's canal manufacturing. And they had a lot of very positive feelings about it. So it's been great as we've been able to communicate with them what our goals are and what's going to happen with the Lift Center. It's been great to see the support. They're excited about it. I mean, as you know, if you had a building and especially that large and kind of an industrial building, and maybe the business goes out and nothing comes in, it could become a liability in a community, especially in a neighborhood.
Sure.
And people understand that. So they're very excited that we're going to quickly turn this around and rehab it. We're actually taking down all of the ancillary buildings. We're taking down a portion, as I said, of the central hall, all the way down to the steel. We're going to reskin it, give it all new systems.
Which
new
in
floors.
itself is amazing to me, that the original steel is still apparently very usable and can be, I liked your term, reskinned.
Well, what they say, like they say, they don't build them like that anymore.
That's right.
We're actually, and I'll go into this a little bit
That's
more.
America at its industrial finest right
absolutely.
there.
And I'll talk about the kind of the schedule in a little bit, but the demolition company that's working there now, they're very impressed with how things were built. Let's just say that in a positive way. But it's very strongly built. They don't make them like that for sure.
Are you allowed to announce who your tenants are at this point?
Sure,
Okay.
absolutely. So we have 3 tenants right now. One is actually from Marshall University's College of Engineering, and it's their Battery Research Institute. So they're going to be doing cutting-edge research on batteries and energy storage, basically.
Okay.
So that's very exciting.
That sounds pretty relevant.
It's very relevant. The second tenant is actually Coalfield Development Corporation, and they're going to focus on mostly workforce training. So there's a workforce training component. In addition, they're going to help run the third tenant, which Terrell has been very involved with, and that is the Charleston Food Hub, I think is what we're still calling it. It's essentially a commercial kitchen, and she'll go into great detail. But it's the kind of place that if you had a food truck, for instance, this is a very relatable example, and it's only one way that this facility might be used. But if you had a food truck and you needed to have somewhere to store some food, store some of your product, your ingredients, and to prepare your food, you could lease space at that commercial kitchen and then do that in an FDA approved kitchen. So we've got those 3 tenants, and as I said, we have a 4th space that we can use for a complementary business at some point.
Now, Terrell, you are president and CEO of Advantage Valley. Here's your chance to pitch. What is Advantage Valley?
So Advantage Valley is a regional economic development organization. We represent 9 counties in the Charleston, Huntington metro area. You know, for years, you've seen the highway signs on I-64.
Yes.
You're entering the Advantage Valley
They're
corridor.
blue with white print.
Right. So for years, the organization was a marketing organization to market the 2 communities together, the 2 metro areas together. Because, you know, when we try to go out and talk to the rest of the world about locating a business here, sometimes people don't even know that West Virginia is a place. They think we're saying Western Virginia.
Right.
So when we can put 2 of our largest metro areas together, and we really do operate as one regional economy. You know this. People commute from Charleston to Putnam County, Putnam to Charleston, Jackson County to Charleston,
Yes.
Huntington to Mason. It is very much a commuter region, and we really function as one regional economy. So we market the region to companies as one large metro region with a population of 650,000, a workforce of 300,000, 2 airports, 3 interstate highway systems, barge facilities. We have a lot of assets we can talk about in this region, and that really gets people's attention when you're talking, at that scale about locating someplace. So Advantage Valley historically has focused on marketing, but in the recent past, we've also been looking at how we can create more collaboration among our 9 county economic development organizations, look at where we have gaps in resources in the region and fill those gaps. And so one of the things, just backing up for a minute, the Kanawha manufacturing site was actually identified in 2018 through an inventory that we did of possible redevelopment sites in the region. We have very few industrial development sites in this region, and we really need to start looking at how can we repurpose some of the buildings that we have that are underutilized. And Kanawha Manufacturing Site was one key property that we highlighted because we knew that the company was looking at winding down, and it's a 10-acre site that really represented a huge opportunity in the middle of Charleston, which has very little industrial property. So we actually had coordinated with Charleston Area Alliance to come up with a redevelopment strategy for that site. So we were ready when the Build Back Better Challenge grant came along. We had a site that we knew we wanted redeveloped. And sort of the theme for our grant was diversifying our regional economy away from fossil fuel-based economy. We all know that coal is still important to, the country, to the world's economy, but we also know that we have to diversify. So our grant, the Build Back Better grant, includes not only the Lift Center, but it also includes a number of other projects that are related to how we diversify the economy of southern West Virginia, and sort of looking at things like climate change technology, like the Battery Center at Marshall University, looking at how we use agriculture and food as a way to diversify our economy, growing that sector. And then obviously you need the workforce to be able to do a lot of different skill sets related to those sectors, and that's why Coalfield is in the building as well.
Well, Drew mentioned that the F in LIFT stands for food.
Right.
And that one caught me off guard. When Drew told me that the other day, I thought, oh, I got it. Food. How does food fit in?
Well, and
so
here's...
explain that, because that's really innovative.
So one of the programs that Advantage Valley sponsors is the Faster West Virginia program. It's an entrepreneurship program, and we work with a lot of small startup companies, helping them with business coaching, access to capital, and things of that nature. We target certain sectors that we think there's high growth opportunity. Food production is one of those high growth opportunities. It's really across the country, and especially when COVID hit, everybody became very conscious of where is my food coming from. They wanted it more local. People really took more of an interest in making things. So we've really seen this proliferation of small cottage food producers in our region, people who are making jams and jellies and breads and, all kinds of things. Here's what we know though. You can produce at that scale and sell at farmers markets and fairs and festivals, and it's pretty easy to do in West Virginia. The regulatory barriers are pretty low when you're in what we call cottage food producing. The minute you want to try to scale up and get into a grocery store, or if you want to start selling your product online, all of a sudden the barriers become much higher. There are a lot more regulations about the kind of kitchen you have to be producing in, and the kinds of health and safety issues you need to be addressing. So we have known for some time, in order to get our food producers to scale up, they are either going to have to invest in a large-scale commercial kitchen themselves, which a lot of people they just don't want to take that on, or we can provide them with space that they can rent by the hour, hence the food part of the Lift Center. Mm-hmm. So the food, we're calling it Food Incubation Center. We've got to come up with a name. We don't really have a name, but it's basically a place to incubate small food producers. There are going to be 3 large-scale commercial kitchens. So, the hoods, the grills, the big stock pots that the big kettles that people produce in, the bottling lines, if you need to bottle stuff and you need a production line to do it, labeling machines, big convection ovens, all that kind of equipment that is going to be pretty expensive for an individual to buy on their own. We will now have that in 3 separate large kitchens that people can rent by the hour. And we're really excited. And then what we're going to be doing as well is we will have our business coaching services there. So not only do they now have the facilities that they can be working in, we will have business coaching services to help them, and technical assistance services to help them with their business plans as they're growing, to help them, figure out that path forward. And if they need access to more capital, we can help link them with funders and lenders and things of that nature. So we're really excited about, what this means to our small food producers. We had done a feasibility study and we had surveyed a lot of food producers. We got responses from 40 of them, and all of them were saying, we need this facility and they want us to be open tomorrow. So we can't get open fast enough.
So you're taking your food sales company to a whole new level.
Whole new level.
Because if you're going to put it on Kroger's shelf,
right,
there's a whole new set of guidelines and standards.
Yes, absolutely.
Well,
so we're very excited about that, and some people can go in and let's say they want to sell online, and let's say they want to produce 200 units of something, and that's fine. They can do that in the commercial kitchen. Let's say though that they get a contract at Kroger for Kroger, and they need 100 pallets of something to do. We will also have what we call a co-packer, an operator in there in one of the largest kitchens. It's a co-packer who can actually run the production lines for them and help them, with all the packaging and storage and distribution of it. So we're really, eventually we hope to see people using it and move out into their own facilities, right, because they've gotten so large, they've had to have their own manufacturing space. Wouldn't that be wonderful?
I tell you, you don't think of too many good things that came out of COVID, very little. Yeah. I guess maybe work from home is a legacy of COVID, but I hadn't really thought about food being a legacy of COVID, but it is. When you said it, it resonated with me. People really started paying a lot more attention.
Yes, absolutely.
Drew, tell me about the Marshall University project.
Yeah, so they're going to be doing cutting edge technology in batteries and battery storage. I wish I could tell you more about the technical aspects of it, but it's so far above my head. But they're going to be having PhD students, professors working down there doing this primary research in a variety of areas related to batteries and energy storage. So,
well, obviously that's about as relevant as you can get, as
absolutely,
I said earlier.
Absolutely.
What's your timeline? How long is it going to take? I mean, you're in charge of the project as far as the liaison from Charleston Area Alliance?
I am. We have a great team. I will say there's a lot of folks working on this project, as with any project of this size. But as far as the schedule, we began demolition early this spring in 2024.
I'm seeing some historical photos, I believe.
Oh yeah,
I'm looking. I'm testing my eyesight by looking at our monitor and seeing some of the great photos. Looks like the groundbreaking ceremony. And,
it is.
And many of us have known Willie Lively for forever, and I can't imagine a nicer person to deal with, just in general.
Yeah, he's fantastic. He's been so helpful with this project, and I think he's very excited about it because it's important to him. Obviously, it's been 4 generations at least, maybe 5, in his family. He didn't want it to go to seed, so to speak. He wanted it to be productive, and I think it's a bonus that it's kind of in that same energy field that it has been for 125 years. It's taking the next step. So we're excited about it, but we're in the demolition phase right now. That should be completed within a month or so, so that would be around November. Simultaneously, we've been working with Terrell and the other tenants to come up with the exact design and the layout, how all the equipment's going to be used in each of the spaces.
I can see that being very challenging.
It's been very challenging, but we have a great team. We're working with Thrasher Engineering, and they're doing a really good job getting all that information and making the blueprints. And we hope to put that out to bid for the construction phase of this project within the next month or so. And so ideally, we will finish with the demolition.
I
That's
knocked on
right.
wood when you said that,
That
Drew.
keeps me awake at night a few times, but I think we'll be fine. It's moving along very well. But
Can I ask you something real quick?
sure, of course.
When I hear the words demolition, I always think of surprise. Because anytime you do a demolition project, you always find something you weren't expecting. Did you find anything out of the ordinary?
Not really. I think we did find some asbestos in some of the electrical components that we had to, of course, treat appropriately and take care of. And I don't know that that was necessarily a surprise, but no, it's gone smoothly. Fingers crossed. Yeah, exactly. So now the exciting part comes when we put all this design information out to bid for the construction portion. That's the other thing that gives project managers heart attacks.
Yes,
You
and
don't
change
know.
orders. Don't
And
forget
change orders could happen. But this, like I said, this began in 2021 with the actual planning for this grant. Prices have done nothing but go up, so we've got our fingers crossed that we are able to address that in the way that the bid documents are
What's
put
the
together.
budget for the project?
It's probably going to end up being around $20 million total.
A big investment right there.
20 to 23, depending on how you count some of the funds. But once we begin and actually award the construction, we expect it will take between 12 to 18 months to complete. So you'll see the sides go up, the new roof, everything will happen very quickly.
Pretty fast timeline, actually.
It is a fast timeline, but we've got some experts working on it.
So you're going to go take it out. The architect's renderings are probably, do we have any of those here today yet? We have any architect's renderings?
I don't think we have any
Too
new
early.
ones. Yeah.
I get all excited when I see architect's rendering.
Yeah.
So you got demolitions and rolling along pretty good.
Right.
Maybe another month or two.
Correct.
And then you go roll into the blueprints and all that. And
Right.
Terrell, I can only imagine what it's like to try to design these commercial kitchens.
Well, we're
It's got to be tricky.
Yeah, we're very fortunate. We've been working with a consultant who lives up in the Northeast, and she's got a lot of experience working with large food incubators like what we're trying to produce. So she has been terrific. We've got an advisory group of potential users, people from the State Department of Agriculture, Coalfields Development. A lot of different people are providing input, and I feel really good about. And the users themselves have told us what kind of equipment they want, and how it should be laid out. We've gone and visited places. We're going to go, I'm sending my staff down to a conference in New Orleans that is nothing but a bunch of people who that's all they do every day is work in these kind of large food incubation facilities. So I feel like we are pretty well prepared from a design and programmatic point of view. When you open the doors, you never know what's going to happen, but we're going to put together as best we can policies and procedures and so that we can open the doors and be very smooth, hopefully, come day one, and have a pipeline of users that are ready to go in there and start using the space right away. So we're really excited. We feel like this is a whole new sector of the economy that we are really focusing on trying to develop and grow, and I see a lot of momentum in it and a lot of opportunity for some job growth. We project that in the first year we would be working with 40 different entrepreneurs that could be cycling in and out of there, representing about 80 to 100 jobs. And, those are just small businesses. It's 1 and 2 people at a time that are, employed by these businesses. But when you look at the aggregate of what that means, it's almost 100 people that are employed just in that one facility that are using it. So we're excited.
Yeah.
What's the timeline to have it completed?
Yeah, it'll be probably 18 months, I would say, from the beginning of this year, from the beginning of 2025.
So mid-26.
Correct.
Hard to even say 26.
It is. But it'll come quickly. And I've alluded to this a little bit, just that it's, there's a broad group of people working on this, but I think it bears kind of emphasizing. We have had all types of support from all types of groups, and you've worked in economic development before in various capacities, so it's rare for there to be a project that everybody is in agreement on. And this project, in addition to the money we got from the U.S. Economic Development Administration, we got money from the governor's office, from the state of West Virginia, the city of Charleston contributed money, the Kanawha County Commission, The Charleston Area Alliance has skin in the game. We also have donations from private businesses that see the benefit of this and want to encourage this. And I always get nervous when I start listing all the participants because you don't want to leave anybody out. But even outside of money, the expertise, Terrell mentioned that site identification study that she did. So this started years ago when we first started looking at the canola manufacturing site. She and various groups worked with the Brownfield Assistance Center at Marshall University. You know, this is it's a basically clean site, but it was an industrial site for 125 years. So we worked with them to make sure that everything was in line for the uses that we wanted to use it for today as we kind of transition it to its new uses. And this, like I said, it started years ago, and without these steps, you know, as an economic developer, I had anecdotal evidence of the need for a food hub or for a commercial kitchen. She quantified it with a study. So we had that ready to go when it was time to write for the grant. And I could go on and on. And like I said, a project this size, the danger is you forget to mention somebody who played an integral role. So I apologize if I've left anybody out. But those are just a couple of examples.
Well, I think you've captured most of it, but from our point of view, and I think it's really important to emphasize, I think sometimes people get really frustrated when they hear, well, we're doing a plan for this, or they're like, why aren't you just spending money on constructing or doing, you know? And I always tell people, but you have got to be ready when those opportunities come along to apply for large sums of money like that. I mean, that's very competitive, and if you don't have your act together and you haven't put the forethought into it and done the planning, then you're not going to be ready and able to compete very well. And at least for the Lift Center, we had done the work on the site plan. Right. It was ready to go from an environmental point of view. For the food portion of the Lift Center, the Appalachian Regional Commission and the Benedum Foundation put money into our study to make sure that, so when we applied for the funding for the Lift Center, we actually put our feasibility study in there to demonstrate there was a need for this kind of a facility. So I can't emphasize enough, you know, these things don't just kind of materialize out of thin air. It does take a few years of planning and forethought, and fortunately we had, as a region, collectively done that work and could compete.
Well, and the proof's always in the pudding. Look at all the sponsors.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, like you said, Drew, to get all those groups to sign on, private, public, regional, and Terrell, I have to say, I completely agree with you about the Advantage Valley philosophy. You know, one of the things the governor was so enthused about in the improvement of I-64 is the reality that Charleston, Huntington, and Putnam County are one region. And the sooner we recognize that, the better off we'll be.
Right. And with Mason County and Jackson County having those large investments that they're seeing in Nucor and Timot, I mean, they are even more connected now to our region.
Yes, sir.
And that's where a lot of our developable land is too, quite frankly. So we have to tie all of our region together.
Yes. Well, thanks for both of you for being here today.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
Like I said, I learn every time I do this show, so I learned a lot today, and I hope our viewers did. Keeping you informed on the Library Network about an exciting economic development project in our region, the Lift Center. I'm Dave Hardy. Thanks for watching Say What.